here. As mentioned, the rise civilization between the different countries. Especially if you have work on the market things in a very good level. Everybody pays for the same level. Scalar solutions help us with monitor plant operations from the office in all of the stations, whether it's fuel stations, gas plants, compressor stations. It can take quite a lot. For me, that was my first introduction into safety. Always came from the university, working in an organization where the first thing I had to do before I can really start working is to learn how to swim. And they said, well, you must learn how to swim, otherwise you can't go to you can't go to water very as well operations. And the real me always want to have fun, reflection. Then we have to know how to swim. And then at the point where challenging one experiences that we know how to swim. Somebody falls within the water and that's it happens. And you swim your way to safety. And they said, no, that's not the point. That it is found statistically that when an incident occurs, the pilot or whoever has usually help comes within a certain somebody can stay alive within 3 minutes. There's a good chance of being rescued. So that's the reason why they said you need to go out to swim to go to and then as I went on, I found out that it's not just the fact that I have to be serious, the fact before you embark on any job, there is a journey management. They plan everything. You have to fill a form, and that form tries to register everything that will happen, including the routes that you will go through, including the time, including what is happening in those areas. And we used to think this is unnecessary. And then different areas of emphasizing this permit work system and all of that just to make sure that you will safe. We put out some statistics also that very close now. When it comes to keeping Nigeria safe and keeping us safe with what we do, is all about following processes, systems, and following which one happen. And somebody described to me and said, safety in the oil and gas industry is exactly like what we manage. I don't know if of course I'll be privileged to work pilots before the plane takes off. You find out that it doesn't matter whether this person has been a pilot for 5 years, 30 years. When he gets into that company, it brings out a chance. He does not do things by instinct. He just looks at the charts, this week, he comes this up, he comes that up. He consciously moves through that thing. Until he has got it to the point, then that he out that the thing. The reason is that that industry doesn't give a lot of discretion to start thinking and acting about what follow that process. That process that you follow helps to keep us safe. Non-gas industries like that. And it starts from fast and moving. Climbing up the staircase and see how to do it. Or within you have to work in a particular manner. The nature of the industry's revenue predisposes itself that we have to follow certain guidelines that have been tested over time. Special grace of God, today I'll be anchoring on one of the pillars under the topic together for a safer. And I'd like to spotlight on the strategic goal of HSC leadership, behavioral excellence, and diversity. If you don't, please remember everything. I'd like you to please keep this very talking about HSC to first and foremost HSC leadership. But rooted in that, it's also the behavioral foundation. So we're looking at the excellence in behavior that helps us to keep Nigeria safe. And last but not least, we're talking about attitude, which is the development of it. The journey toward a safer Nigeria begins with the right things and our unwavering commitment to safety protection. Safety is not just about policies and procedures, it is about leadership, it's about behavioral excellence, and most importantly, it's about having the right attitude. The way safety professionals approach their roles directly impacts workplace culture, business outcomes, and the well-being of employees and communities. This session that I'm handling today is designed to inspire HSE professionals to see themselves as strategic influencers who lead by example and who create a culture where safety is second nature. And I'm hoping that by the time we achieve today, I will have achieved the following objectives. Number one, I will be able to establish that HSE leadership is a catalyst for change, and proactive leadership plans safer workplaces. Number two, that in this construct of keeping Nigeria safe, behavioral excellence in safety is crucial. And we need to understand human behavior and develop a safety first mindset. Seek to reinforce positive habits. Number three, that the right attitude is the game changer in HSE. And it's about our passion, it's about our ability. Please don't do this slide on yet. Just stay at the it's about accountability and personal commitment in transforming safety culture. And then we will explore this further as we consider the concept of the power of influence and safety professionals. How, as safety professionals, we can shape frontline behaviors and executive decision making. And hopefully, then we of how we build a safer Nigeria together, how we explore the frontiers of collaboration, of mentorship, and continuous learning for us to drive long-term safety improvements. I guess that by embracing strong leadership, the right attitude, and behavior excellence, as HSE professionals, we can become the change agents in our organizations and the wider community. This session for me is a call to action, a call for us to lead with conviction, to inspire positive change, and to work together toward a Nigeria where safety is embedded in every decision and action. Because, truly speaking, true safety, that's what we do. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. And I'll tell you, please just about what we came with the team. What I'd like us to do first is to look at some statistics about the state of safety in Nigeria. And these are picked from different data sources. And some statistics on that slide we're looking at taking it on. I think the first one I want to establish coming from estimates of the IMO organization established that 60% of the workplace fatalities that were experienced in 2023 were linked to behavioral absence. That 60% amounts to about 2,200 workplace fatalities. Just think about it. In 2023 in Nigeria, there were 2,200 people who went to work and did not get back home to their wives, to their children, to their parents. I'm privileged by those ways to be a business leader, and nothing wrenches my soul more than writing compliments. Tell myself, I don't want to buy compliments. I don't care whether the person is a banker or a general manager. My greatest joy is that we start the year as a full house, and we end the year as a full house. That everybody at the end of every day is able to go out. That duty of care is what we want. But the last thing I want to do as the one that holds the pen ultimately is to sign a condolence letter, or to pick up my phone and to speak to the spouse of say for XYZ reason, your family husband as you release to come and work with us. 2,200 people in 2023. I don't have the statistics for this. Were not able to talk to the members of their spouses or their families. That's very, very devastating. And for us, whether we are the frontline safety professionals or we are business makers, it has to be taken as a personal challenge. And one of the things I tell my workforce is success is empty if it's at the cost of any life. It's not success. We can't celebrate we made so many billions of dollars, but we are counting the cost of how many people are being lost in the process. And this music that I'm using in the process that are rapid and instantaneous as well. But then I'm using because of serious exposure to health-related issues that are dealing with. And some die without being even recorded among these 2,200, but they are dead because of work-related conditions. So our number one job is that everybody that comes to work must be able to go back home and enjoy the fruit of their labor. And our challenge is how can we make these 2,200 to become zero? It's going to take a lot, which we're going to speak about today, and hoping we get a limited time to be able to unpack it. Another statistic I'd like you to take note of on that graph is that, sadly enough, only 42% of Nigerian companies have been established to have a business leadership. And there's a strong correlation between strong and robust agency leadership program and activities. Every criteria is that every accident is prevented. That sounds very counterintuitive for us as Africans. We are always thinking to ascribe some supernatural forces to why something bad happened. But really speaking, every single accident is possible. Maybe somebody had an accident because the person who was meant to service the car did not service it. In order to cut corners, we went to somebody who said, I have cheaper brake pads, I have cheaper tires. And if you just continue to investigate and do the root cause, every single accident was prevented. Every single. Some of them are preventable just by somebody doing what he needs to do. Restraining himself from being by impulse. Every accident is preventable. I think that's a challenge for us as frontline safety champions to double up to make sure that we reduce the number of incidents that we have. And I'm hoping that as we go through this, our mind will be called to an action that when we talk about safety leadership, it goes beyond the rhetoric of compliance. It's about commitment. If we're going to get to the point where we keep Nigeria safe, then our upholding of the standards and the tenets of safety has to go beyond compliance. Compliance is about we not getting caught. It has to elevate it beyond compliance to the deep consciousness of commitment, where this is what we live for and this is what we are willing to live by. So other statistics about us to speak in places where I've let people that ask when something is going wrong, who has the authority to stop it? They said it's the HSA person. I said that's not what they say. It's not the HSA person. In fact, a driver is competent to stop and save lives. And what this statistic shows is that 55% of our workforce feel that they are not empowered enough to take interventions from something. The messaging and the tone from the top has to be very strong and clear. If you see something, say something. If you see something, do something. By all means, don't keep quiet. Because in your doing something, in your saying something, allows you to be able to advance a given situation. And there are many other statistics in there on that slide. One that shows us that as a result of systemic issues that we've buried and we've normalized, and this is one of the key areas where we have HS challenges, where abnormal situations have become normalized, then it fails to help us in this situation. I was privileged to work in a company where we had in the operational center an alarm board. That alarm board has different alarm triggers to review where process safety, process events. And all of a sudden, there was a mighty fire incident. It started tracing out. They found out that the operation, the alarm that was twirled, informed them that something went wrong. They found two peak that was used to plug and silence the alarm. Because over time, there were spurious alarms that were arising, and the guy abnormalized and said that each time the alarm comes up, what we do is we just go and press one button. So instead of him going ahead to go and press one button, he just uses two peak. Recently, I was privileged to be hosted in the residential area of one of our very strong companies. And this is a life story, about 2-3 weeks old. I don't walk out of the room. I came back and I went to the bathroom to shower, and I just instantly was shut the door. I finished having my bath, and then I opened the door. The door broke. And I didn't carry my phone to the back. I did all I could to put the door. So I looked through the window, just to see if anybody would be walking by. For 10 minutes, nobody walked. And I said, what am I going to do? So I started shouting. I started screaming, help. And my neighbor helped me. And what my neighbor did in the next channel was he picked up the phone. The phone had short codes. Short code that goes to fire, short code that goes to security. The guy on the short code, not very much.
Yeah, it's a safety.
I was in a situation. Eventually, the people from the sector came. This was about maybe 10 minutes to what we call change of crew. And they said, oh, don't worry, this is okay. We're going to get the maintenance people. And so they went to get the maintenance people. And waited. It took about 30-40 minutes before somebody came. And guess what happened? When they got to where the maintenance guy was, the guy was looking at his clock and he felt it's 2 minutes to close. I can't bother myself about it. So he just told the person to resolve it. Okay. Closed. The person who took over, there was nothing in the log to tell me that there's somebody that has been trapped in the bathroom. Now, the good thing is that it was not a medical emergency. It took about 1.5 hours to rescue me from that situation. If I just use that as a case study about the fact that accidents are preventable, you agree with me, several people in the chain failed. The person who is working with the IT systems to make sure that the phone is working probably did not understand the connection of what is doing to safety. The moment when that phone needed to ring, it failed to ring. The gentleman was about to close shop and moved on, I can't be bothered. And just let me allow these guys to go. And then they carried his bag and he went to without even logging, even if he wasn't going to respond, at least let him log in as part of the handover notes that allows the incoming person to come. Now just imagine it was somebody that had We say, old people have come to the studies. It's people who have failed to notice, people who just want to notice purely from a compliance point of view, not from a commitment point of view. And the danger when we do things from a compliance point of view, we're always looking for an occasion for somebody not to catch us. It's never about truly preventing things, it's about us always looking good. These are some of the key challenges that we have with respect to the statistics we see. And there are sources that feed into those numbers you see. I've said 60% of it derives from behaviors. 60% of the incidents we have are behavior driven. What it means is that if we can address behavior, we have eliminated 60% of the incidents that we see. And so I'm hoping that part of the challenge we're going to take away from here is to take a fresh challenge on our behaviors, on how we take things, how we show up at work, how we follow the script, how we do things that will help us. Let me move on to the next slide. And as I mentioned when I started, I just want to focus on three things: HSC leadership, the overall excellence, and the attitude. So let's say it's around HSC leadership. Anyone that asks the question, who has the power to stop work? And I'm sure we'll have pleased everybody. I think the first place where we fail in arresting leadership, in arresting safety-related issue, is what makes safety to be the professional job. The day that safety becomes a concern and the burden of specific persons and not of everyone, is the day that we are opening the floodgates for incidents to happen. There are many things we can outsource, but one of the things we can never outsource by way of working with responsibilities. And for safety to become a shared and a collective responsibility, we must create an atmosphere that allows people to speak up and intervene without feeling themselves damaged. There are too many people that see data coming, keep their mouth shut, because they feel if they say something, they're going to be punished for it. So when and there are some indicators we're going to see it from that helps us to know how thriving the culture of safety is. Statistics of safe acts, safe safe act and safe condition reports. If you ever find yourself in an organization where you don't see people working hard to fulfill those forms, people are being afraid that if they do it, they can get punished. If you work in an organization that you call for surveys, and people will not do surveys, but if they do it, they will rather do it anonymously. It's telling you about the issue. Those sort of attitude, those sort of leadership style is stifling people from speaking, and they then create a pattern for incidences to happen. So whilst safety is the responsibility of everyone, there's a point to be made about the leadership for HSC. And that is where we come. Ourselves, safety, must take responsibility for fostering the right kind of leadership of HSC. HSC cannot be what we do after we have done this. HSC cannot just be another metric that we measure. HSC speaks to the way we do our job. HSC must be so strong enough that we tell our people if it is not safe, don't do it. And when we demonstrate the value we place on safe working, is where even as leaders, we are happy to take a hit of financial returns, just to make sure and people watch. Recently, I had an incident in a gas plant of the company where I work. And it was at a time where tracking was soccer. And that incident had a fire incident, and a good thing, and I was speaking about that incident. The incident was a fire incident. It happened at around 11:30. Less than 1 hour, the entire fire was stopped. I was extremely proud of the response of the fire people at that time of the day. Everything was activated and stopped. And the plant was in a situation where we continue for business. But I had a challenge because here's my gas plant. It is connected to my fuel station. If this plant goes down, it's not just the gas production that goes down, the oil production goes down. And it is connected to the refinery. So just in one area means I was going to shut down the upstream production, I was going to shut down the gas plant, and I was going to shut down the refinery. I was reflecting. And I said, guys, stop. For the next 48 hours. Some of my lecturers were putting saying, we've contained it. I said, no, this is a teachable moment. If we do not use this point, and this incident will reinforce that we value safety more than dollars, then we miss the point. Yeah. So we shut down for 48 hours, constituted an inquiry team, brought in external people, and they took the entire operations people through things are shocking. Things that I took for granted. And I was very proud afterwards that, because one of the things people say is, the constant messaging on scorecard and on production target and so on and so forth was the reason why they did so on and so forth. I said, okay. So I told everybody, shut down, we went through, and we are still replicating. If you see the dashboard of the things that came out, fantastic. Now I'm going to speak to that mode later on. It's great, but it's not the best for agency. And from that time, we have to construct as an organization point a time that we said never again. So if you come to an operation and you're speaking to people and you say never again, everybody goes on. From that time, I also have to change my tone. I said, guys, everything we do now must be at the speed of safety. If it is not safe, don't do it. And be strong enough to look at me in the face and to say we will not do this. Yeah. The leadership that we provide is extremely important in terms of how and where we have placed HSE. And as leaders and as frontline people, we must continuously read the data. When we miss an incident, it's not an opportunity for us to say, oh, well, thank God we missed it. It's an opportunity for us to go and review and to say what failed. And if they failed this time, the likelihood of it failing again is very high. In fact, one of the things we don't do well in terms of HSE leadership is weaponizing our experiences to provide insights as to how we will make sure certain things will occur. When things occur and things do occur, there are leaders, HSE professionals, and top company leaders that for them, the first instinct is when it is scalable, what are we going to use to show an example? What we do because you have tackled the enthusiasm of people and you have missed a golden opportunity to play. Yeah. Incidences must always be in our industry today, HSE practice is better for because of what we said. I don't know how many of us remember the Mapogo event. The Mapogo event went analyzed the story and provided a lot that shaped the but it would have been very defensive as an industry if people have been very defensive and didn't open up themselves for the review. Vital insights. But coming later on, I think a few slides down where I'll be speaking about the phases and the stages of HSC. Know that we tend to specialize in the most, and we tend to invest in the most is the least strategic of them. That is the one that has to do with the reaction HSC. That's the one that has to do with making sure that your fire hydrants are okay, making sure your solutions are okay. They are great. We must have them. But those are at the rudimentary stage of an effective HSC leadership. An effective HSC leadership is one that curates the system so that you never need to use it. When we begin to beat our chest in terms of how many fires we have put out, I'm missing the vital point. Our HSC leadership is one that was prepared where we do not have experience. And I would rather that for 10 years, my fire tender do not work than to be beating my chest about how many times the fire tender work to rescue things. Because I will always be one that the magnitude of the incident will overwhelm those things. So the most effective one is starts with HSC leadership. And as HSC leadership means with I bring that consciousness, everybody is HSC. It starts with making sure that even the work targets we set for each staff complete an HSC. Yes. Until we start forcing it into the consciousness of our people, we're not building a critical mass that defends us in eliminating incidences for communication. So it's not about titles, it's about influence, it's about deliberately bringing HSC to the subconsciousness of our people. It's about people making sure that in the scorecard where we are rewarded, HSC carries a significant. And people then understand that I could have made the operational performance, I could have made the financial target, but if I fail on the HSC, a big portion of the bonus will not be paid to me. That sets a path for the thing. And it's up to us to influence and shape that. So let me then talk about what I call the different levels of HSC maturity. And you will see on the screen there are 3 levels. I've talked extensively about the lowest one, the reactive leadership. That's the one that kicks into action after an incident at the top. It's a great level of HSC leadership, but it's not the best. But we must have it. In case anything else fails, we must have it. It responds only after incidents have occurred. And it's very transactional. It takes HSC as compliant. When you are at this level, your chart is saying, did you do the monthly check? Yes, I did. Did you test the fire hydrants? Yes, I tested it. Did you, is the gas refilled? Yes, I did it. When was this last service? Yes, I did it. It's always about compliance. Let's not get carried away by those compliance because there are things we can do to assume that we have a strong and robust safety process or system in place. And the impact when we begin at this level is that we continue to have high incident rates. Those high incident rates affect the trust in leadership, they affect our ability to be proactive, and we spend a lot of our time just investigating. Because each time an incident occurs, there will be investigation. So we're always setting up investigative panel, and people that are in this group invest next to nothing on minimum of training safety standards. It just will be arrested. The next stage is the proactive leadership. And in difference, the proactive safety leadership level identifies upfront and seeks to mitigate incidents before they happen. There is strong encouragement to workers to participate in safety programs, and we tend to have those regular audits at some level of HSC. And consequently, it leads to a much more reduced incident rates. Employees are a bit more aware, and there's a stronger safety culture. But the best is for us to operate at the strategic leadership. And at the strategic leadership is to make sure that we have a fully integrated HSC case into our business program. It's to make sure that the right professionals are engaged. It's not just when we're engaged HSC professionals. You want to engage and competent, not HSC person to do what he or she is supposed to do. You've already created an HSC situation. You engage an operator that is not. What do you expect? What they had done with what is not supposed to do and what are those of them. So even to think of making sure that we engage people with the right skills and competencies and we train and develop people to have the right skills and competencies is actually part of safety. It's part of safety for me to engage somebody who is a telecoms engineer that is correct. I'm talking about the telecoms engineer who knows that for me to be up on the max, there are safety harnesses that I must compliment myself. So if you engage somebody because this guy is my brother, is my sister, or we come from the same association or affiliation, what you are creating, you are creating the same talent. So strategic leadership puts up and invest in that. Continuously assess their staff and what to do and make sure that they are good. And this is a continuous challenge because in our businesses, people don't go forever. So somebody may have come today as an operator, and then all of a sudden, because of the person's career growth, we move you from being an operator to being a foreman. The skills and the competencies he needs as a foreman is totally different from what he has as an operator. Our job is to ensure that as he moves into that field, there are plans to make sure he's freed up to the right level of competence. Otherwise, his actions and inactions will be the same. So for us, at the strategic level, we're looking at the business and we are asking ourselves, that's what says, how do we embed the right culture to ensure that we work safe? And to do that, to perform at that level of HSC leadership, which is hugely transformational. I'd like to talk about the next slide, which is just running through what are the basic ingredients that we must possess in order to put in place a transformational HSC leadership. Remember, I talked about yesterday about HSC leadership. There are challenges and opportunities. So I'm still on HSC leadership. For us to be able to possess and demonstrate transformational HSC leadership, it's about the vision. It's about the vision. The vision is about what you see. How do you see HSC? HSC cannot be a KPI, even if it is written in our scorecard as a KPI. In our mind, we must elevate HSC to be an issue of reform. It's what we live by. It's the way we respond to situations. It's the way we handle and engage with matters like opportunities. Our value defines what we live by. And every one of us has our own. Some even fine-tune and sharpen the sword. It's the value that determines how we live. It's the value that will make people to be able to second guess what happens to you. HSC has to be covered. HSC, which has to do with safety at its core, must be a creed that we live by if we're ever going to accept a transformational HSC leadership. And to do that, it's not just that it becomes a value. For us to actually get to that third state of strategic HSC leadership, is our courage. It's our courage to do the right thing. It's our courage to challenge the situation. As HSC professionals, we will not be courageous enough to say we're stopping this work because it's not safe. Not because we want to show that we are power, but because we have a deep consciousness to keep everyone safe. And we want to make sure we do things right. then we will never have that solution. It's about empathy. The outcome of every one of our actions always results in outcomes of people's lives. Remember what I said when I started, that it must be our living creed that everybody that comes to work on that way. Nothing tells that story more powerful. I have a mentor who told me a story and said it was actually the record of an interview. So what is the lowest point of your career? And he said the lowest point of his career was a situation that happened when an incident of any of a company, but this incident affected the guy. The driver came out from Port and was driving to Mobi. And somewhere between Port and Yemen, he drifted off, hit the barrier of a bridge, and the vehicle went into the water. He didn't survive. This MD was harsh. No, not you have. He had to go and see the wife and the children. And he said for the rest of his life, that he took it as a huge guy. Because he then discovered that this guy had a rotation cycle that means something like he works 20 days, 2 days off. And even those 2 days that he gets off, he spends so much of it in traffic that by the time he's sitting behind the steering, it's not allowed. And that was driving. They had all these. Again, I talked about the rules that are meant to keep us safe. And the reason why some companies are what they call the golden rules of HSE. That for so long, apparently the guy had been driving for quite a while. Somebody that to be on duty was not available, so he took his shift. So by the time he was going to drive his to do his own shift, he was already overstretched. The empathy that he demonstrated has been a powerful lesson for me. I'm hoping to be a powerful lesson for us. When we talk about agency, it's not just about a teamwork exercise. We are operating from a position of empathy, and that if something goes wrong, an individual, a family, is going to help. And if you continue to draw a concentric circle of people that there's something happening, it goes beyond that person. Imagine, as a family, typical all of us here, the fact that you have a means of income means that you take care of your needs, you take care of your spouse, you take care of your children. You probably have a driver, you probably have a house help. You all are dependent on that's your salary. Your children, you pay their school fee. Because you pay their school fee, is the reason why that school is able to pay teachers. You probably are living rented, a rented apartment that belongs to someone who has retired. Income from that rent is his livelihood, that's his pension. Just because something happened to that one person, if you continue to draw the cycle of how many persons are affected, then it should drag us to a position of duty of care and just to make sure that the one person I see today, actually behind him is an army of many other persons that are connected. And until we get to that point, we what it takes to insert transformation. It is a machine. The last of those that helps to message, which I'm going to talk about, is attitude. And remember, saying things I want to address today, it is says, that guy, he has a short fuse. You're spoken about your attitude, right? What they're saying is that the guy's capacity to grow is a very short fuse. What they're speaking to is our attitude. Now, you are not just characterized with that attitude because somebody was not like faith. It's as a result of your consistency over time in demonstrating that that's your response. To the point that people now see this as part. So, if you're going to get it right with respect to this, don't fix attitude. Attitude is to flat price. Attitude is the bedrock. Attitude is what either helps us to move or what does not help us to move. And as crucial as attitude is, transformational agency leadership, actually attitude is crucial to everything. Now, where you have to be because of your attitude.
It's like a flat tire in a brand new car.
Thank you very much.
New engine,
like
everything for
you. Flat tire in a brand new car.
Yeah.
Now, let me make it more happy. Imagine that you have a V8 engine car. You know what the power of a V8 engine car can do? They show you the dashboard and say this thing can go up to 260 kilometers an hour. Whether to get to 260 kilometers an hour, the engine is designed to do it, the electronics is designed to do it. If the tire is flat, it will not do 260 kilometers, in fact, it will not do 20 kilometers. The tire practically is the attitude of the body. So you can be loaded as a potential. You can be loaded with capacity, but if the will, which is your attitude, stinks, then move. If we're going to effect transformational agency leadership, we must get to the point of attitude. Attitude is showcased. So because of that, let me quickly talk about it. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So we're still speaking about keeping Nigeria safe. And may I say that there's a psychology of change with respect to you. 95% of workplace decisions are subconscious. They are rooted in something. They are subconscious to the point that it's almost independent. And there are different safety habits, because I'm talking about behavior now. Behavior is about habits. There are different safety habits that have corresponding impacts. The first one I want to talk about is at the level of what we call situational awareness. And none of this is superior to that. So what does situational awareness does for us as a safety habit that we must practice? It helps us to reduce workplace hazards, like keeping us. It helps us to recognize when things are going outside of their set conditions. It helps us to understand when things are not like they should be. It creates spatial and situational awareness that those makes us really good. It's about vigilance. As a note, I used to teach my kids when they were younger. As I was driving, they are in the car. They are looking up in their jackets. And I keep telling them, I said, no, you should be observing. You should be observing. As you are moving, you should be observing. How do you know if you are running into trouble? Spatial awareness, situational awareness is about keeping up vigilance. It's about what do you see. We must drive the culture of vigilance by encouraging situational awareness. And this is where the continuous encouragement for doing so comes in. But it's about also speaking up for safety. And what that does for us as an impact on our behavior is it helps us to keep our own. You know, culture is a much more bigger impact on the determinant of safety performance. I'd like to just say this. Can we begin to remove things that culturally prevent you from having access to this. So there are people who are privileged to work in offices where it is okay. Just think about it, just have what you come and see. And the staff is we have the bill of the yes to inform. That is another question.